Hi, this is Dr. Wade Binley. I'm the founder and the clinic director of the IV Solutions Method, which is a functional healthcare delivery system. Today we're talking about the COVID virus again. And this is the second part of a three-part series, and this video is dedicated to what you can do to improve your resistance to the virus, specifically the COVID-19, as well as improve your overall immune function. Now, the first video was dedicated to what a virus is, what's in a virus, how it attaches, how it infiltrates our cells, how it transcribes its information to make more of its body parts, and then how it becomes activated, and then how it becomes reassembled and then releases into the body. But today this is different. This is all about nutrition and what compounds that you can consume that are in common foods that you can find in any market. So let's get started here. But before I do, so what are these compounds? What are these 6 compounds? How do they work? And at what step are they active in this process of viral infiltration and replication and reassembly as well? So these 6 compounds are called, they're part of a family called polyphenols, which are ingredients in fruits, vegetables, and herbs. There are 6 that have been studied specifically for the COVID-19 virus. Number 1, quercetin. Number 2, Hesperidin. Number 3 in yellow, which is faint here, called Naringenin. And number 4, EGCG. Number 5, Luteolin. And number 6, Hesperitin. Now, how do they work? Well, just like the virus has things that attach to these receptors, these also have there are competitive molecules that actually compete with the attachment, compete with the infiltration process, compete with the translation process, compete with the activation process. And I'm going to discuss another component which I found in some studies about how a certain ingredient that you make in your body actually competes with the reassembly process, so the viruses have less influence and effect on your tissue cells. Well, let's get started here. So how do these compounds work? I just told you. At what step are they active? So the quercetin itself is active. And you can see these numbers here. The quercetin is active in the attachment, it's active in the infiltration process, it's active in the transcription process, and it's also active in this movement and reduces the movement of the RNA into our cells. So quercetin is one, and you'll see Hesperidin has only one job, and that job is to reduce the effect of the attachment or the docking mechanism in the virus. Naringenin has 2 different jobs. It's also involved in the attachment site as well as the transcription site. And we went over this in a previous lecture. Transcription is the process of the single-stranded RNA from the virus taking over a ribosome and making these little proteins called polyproteins that are inactive proteins. And those proteins are dedicated, like ground substance, to make the parts of the virus. Now the EGCG is a very, very important molecule, because this is this one that's dedicated to a lot of cultures because it's found in green tea, and we'll get into the specifics about that because I'm going to take time to read a list of what these foods are and where they're at. So this one's dedicated to the attachment, the actually movement of the RNA, the transcription, as well as the infiltration process. So Luteolin has 2 different jobs. It's involved with the attachment, and it's the only one that's involved with the activation process. So the activation process then is when these proteins that are made from the transcription of the RNA, they become active to make the parts. Okay, so they're going to make these parts. So these parts are then are out there, and then they have to be reassembled. So that's luteolin interferes with that as well as the docking mechanism. And then finally, Hesperidin. Hesperidin has two jobs as well, and it's for transcription and attachment. So what I've done is I've taken a number here, and you can see how these compounds work. Okay, they all work on the attachment, which is the docking site on the from the virus to the cell. So they are, if you eat all of these things, the likelihood of that virus attaching to its cell is going to be a lot less. The infiltration process, very important to understand, because what happens, the infiltration then is the process where that RNA comes into the cell, and you can disrupt that with the quercetin as well as the EGCG. The transcription phase here, lots of transcription interference there coming from these wonderful compounds. We have quercetin, we're going to have naringenin, we're going to have EGCG as well as the Hesperidin. So there's 4 different types there. And then, like I told you before, the luteolin is the only one that's dedicated to the activation. And then there's one compound that I found with one research article, and I've gone through 17 different research journals and articles written by dedicated research, peer-reviewed medical research journals that study these compounds as much as they do pharmaceuticals. So this is legitimate and well vetted with information and studies that actually know the chemistry behind this, and they can study this stuff that I get and I shun to you. But the simple thing about this stuff is infinitely confusing. Nutrition is infinitely confusing. Virology is infinitely confusing. The immune system is infinitely confusing and complex. But eating is simple, really. So that's what we have to do here. So this trypsin molecule then is something that is made and used in our digestive system. It is activated in our pancreas to digest protein. So what's interesting about this, there's one article that I read, and I found this in the CDC, and it was beautiful, because what happens is when you have elevated trypsin, this reassembly process doesn't work. And I give my patients pancreatic enzymes for different reasons, and pancreatic enzymes have lots of trypsin in them. So I like that idea that you can actually interfere with the reassembly, because so we're hitting them hard here. So there's 6 different things that hit up here at the attachment site. There's 2 that interfere with the transmission or the movement of the RNA into the ribosome. There's 4 that actually interfere with the transcription of the genetic material to make the parts for the virus. And then there's 1 that is involved with the activation and 1 with the reassembly. So all 5 phases or stages of this viral infiltration and spread are dealt with just by food compounds. So back to trypsin. Now trypsin is there. So I wasn't satisfied with just knowing that the pancreas does it. So there's actually foods that are anti-trypsin-like, and you'd never guess what they are. They're grains, they're legumes, and egg whites as well. So they're these foods that have an anti-trypsin compound to them that prevent trypsin from working to digest the proteins that are causing the reassembly of this virus. You need to avoid right now. So you need to be fasting away from grains and beans as well as egg whites, unfortunately. So let me get to the list of foods then that have these compounds in them, and then my recommendations. So I'll give you my recommendations first for the foods, and then I'll get you the list. I'll say the list. So my recommendations are about 6 to 8 servings of vegetables a day, and about 2 to 3 servings of fruit a day, and then multiple herb as spices within the day as well. And I know it's a pivot from the standard American diet, but we need to really do something right now, because if we can take care of our health, then we're going to flatten this curve more and more and more. And the great news is that these foods that have these compounds in there, they're in the vegetable and fruit aisles of your grocery store, in which I found to be completely full and not void. So nobody's hoarding these vegetables and fruits and herbs. All right. So quercetin. Quercetin is abundant in dock, which is a type of wild lettuce. It's also known as sheep sorrel, red sorrel. But any lettuce that has, or vegetable leaf like top, such as beet or rutabaga or something like that, they have this red pigment in it. So that red pigment is the polyphenol, and that polyphenol has lots of this stuff in there, a lot of quercetin in there. So watercress, also cilantro, radicchio, asparagus, okra, onion, red leaf lettuce, there you go, kale, serrano peppers, elderberries, cranberries, blueberries, and juniper berries, as well as apples. Important to note about apples and juniper berries: if you're going to be consuming apples and juniper berries, apples you do not want to, you want to consume the skin, and juniper berries you want to crush a little bit. I like to make juniper berry tea, but there's only one type of juniper berry that actually has the quercetin in there. And the second one is Naringenin. It's found in grapefruit, water, mint, Greek oregano, tart cherries, tomatoes, and cocoa. Number 3, Hesperitin, mostly found in the vine fruits that are dark in color, such as elderberries, black raspberries, Concord grapes, blackberries, Marion berries, blueberries, and black currants. So once again, the darker vine of fruits have Hesperitin in them. Luteolin, found in celery, onion, Mexican dried oregano, sage, thyme, juniper berries, again, and all the cruciferous vegetables, such as broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, arugula, cabbage, collard greens, daikon radish, horseradish, bok choy, and my favorite, which are turnips. Hesperidin, found in grapefruit, blood oranges, tangerines, lemons, and limes. Hesperidin becomes concentrated in the juice from these forms and in the pith, or the white part of these fruits, where 80% of the vitamin C in the family of bioflavonoids are. I love to peel these guys, and when I make a smoothie in the morning, I'll take my lemon or orange or tangerine from my garden, and I actually take the pith out and put that in the smoothie as well, because I'm maximizing the potential of that food to improve my immune system. I also like to make lemon balm tea with peppermint, because peppermint has a lot of Hesperidin in it. And so we make dried peppermint tea with lemon balm during the spring and summer months. And the EGCG, which is called epigalactic catechin gallate, long word there. This is a very specific flavone derivative, and the most abundant source is in green tea. But also nuts such as hazelnuts and almonds and walnuts have a high level of EGCG in them. Other foods include blackberries, raspberries, plums, peaches, onions, avocados, yay, and apples, as well as carob, which is also known as locust bean gum. So, like Hippocrates said, who is the father of medicine long ago, is let medicine be thy food and food be thy medicine. I certainly hope you will take control of your diet and add all of these foods in your daily routine. It takes time to build your immune system, but these foods have the compounds with them that are specific for the COVID-19, based on research that I went through, that is current research, actually up, and my last article was pulled from March 25th, 2020. I hope this has been informative for you. Please get out there and do your job to stay as healthy as possible, and specifically to take these foods in to get those compounds, so that you can fend off this COVID-19 virus within your own body, and then by reducing the curve for yourself, your families, the community, and of course our country, as well as the world.